what we're going to do today. So this was the spread that I did, or I started last week. If this is what I ended up finishing. It took a lot longer than an hour. So for us, I think as a group, it's maybe instead of just trying to do a make and take quick, put something out quickly, we can just do it in segments. So first thing we need to do today, or I'm going to do, is we're going to focus on these little journal bits and pieces here. Just little fun doodly bits, which I did use in my journal spread. I used it here. You can see it in these. So I've seen I've seen some beautiful things on Instagram and different, um, different. I've seen it on Instagram mostly. There's these beautiful little bits that people make, and I know there's a lady who I think she developed it. I'm pretty sure. Her name, I think she goes by the name of Willa Wanders. She has online classes and everything. And I didn't need to take the class. I kind of sort of did it myself. I figured it out. But what I thought, I added some things to make, just to change it up a little. So we're going to work on making some collage bits, things that we can use in the future for our journals and to simplify and make focal points for our journal pages. So I'm just going to put these in you can store them in a little bowl, which is really neat. Store them and use them for later. But to prepare for that, I didn't really give you an email, but I think we can still have plenty of things to do today. As far as I didn't have you prep ahead of time, but that's okay. I'm going to give you some stuff that you can do without preparation. And then I'm going to kind of just share with you all the little fun things I discovered along the way. So the first thing, if you want to gather, is just which I think I mentioned it in the calendar, but just some plain paper. I'm a little thicker than, if you have a sheet that's a little thicker than your typing paper, but if you only have some printer paper, plain paper, that's fine. You'll want to we're going to loosen up by getting some drawings, a little bit of drawing going, or just doodling, and mostly botanical shapes. And then if you have patterned paper, I was able to find some old magazines that I had, and this is something I'd have you do later, but I'm going to explain the process. What I did was I covered these magazine pages in clear gesso. And so if you have old books, you have old, if you have an old book you don't want to use anymore, I coated it with gesso. And the reason I did that was the pages in the beginning were very shiny. You can see how these are very shiny. Well, I was able to mat it out, and it feels almost like newsprint now with the clear gesso. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the clear gesso. This is TriArt clear gesso. This is a Crafter's Workshop clear gesso. It's a little thicker. Anything, I think Liquitex makes it. It's something to have, and I think I've mentioned it before. It's really a good thing to have in your journaling stash or any watercolor stash, anything. But these clear gessos. If you have white, that's okay. You can use white. The white gesso is it's pretty opaque, but there's some translucency to it, so it doesn't cover up the print underneath. So just have some gesso. And I did find, I know that for us, the watercolorists here, there is something that's called watercolor ground. And this is a gold, and I'm going to put some on to show you. And this is a transparent. That would work just as well. This would also accept watercolors afterwards. I think the gesso will too, but this is designed to accept watercolors. I'm pretty sure it has a little more texture, but actually I'll check. Well, let's just check. So gather some markers. If you have a black marker, a pair of scissors, a pencil if you want. It's kind of a little thick. It's thickish, and it has a little more, looks like a little more chunks or a more coarse texture than gesso, slightly coarser. That's kind of fun too. I'll just show you the things that I did to make these, and then we can, of course, start doodling. This is just the same thing. It's a transparent. I don't think I've ever opened it before. Let's see. There it is. So that's actually a beautiful, nice and smooth. So I'm going to play with that a little bit. Some craft paints are great. What I did to prepare, I just actually put, with this page, that's just craft paint that I put over a plain piece of paper. And that just gives me a base, something to work on. So just, brushed on a couple of greens. Since I'm doing botanicals today, I thought it'd be fun just to have a little green. I also took that same craft paint and painted some of the magazine page right here. So you still have the lettering showing through, which is pretty, it's going to be desirable, really neat. And then just some printed, if you have pattern papers, if you go through your stash or you even go through gift wrap, you'll find pattern papers that have nice patterns on their own that you can create your own little collage bits. So you don't even have to draw if you don't want to. And that's the first thing I'll talk about. So I found this paper. It was a scrapbook paper. And I started to look at it and I thought, oh, this is a really nice little pattern. So what we're going to do, or what I'll show you, and of course, if you want to do it along with me, there's something they call fussy cutting, and it's kind of out there. I'm going to isolate a couple of images that I want to cut. I'm going to isolate this leaf and that flower. And so you can do that with any kind of papers you have. Like here, I have this little very kind of a strange looking, leopard with rose print pattern, but I'm going to show you something I can do with that. But this is papers that are already pre-printed. You don't have to draw. But all you need to do is I'll do this one. I'm just going to cut around the edge, and I'm not going to cut right on the line. I'm going to cut a little bit outside the line, just so that, it kind of gives this nice little border. So you can do that with papers you already have in your collection. You might just go through your papers and go, oh, wow, look at that. I can make, maybe papers that you haven't used in a while. You just might find a new use for it, because you're going to cut out shapes and you're going to use them in collage and in your art journals. So that's that's the first way, the easiest way actually, because you don't have to have inks or anything on hand. You just have the papers, and there you've got a fun little collage element. So I'm going to just show you. So I could do it with this nice little piece here. I love these this was a scrapbook paper I found. Anything that you have, if you have a magazine page or something. With the magazine page though, I would coat it with something because it's so thin, but you don't have to either. But just having pre-cut out collage elements like this, little bits of little designs, that's going to give you a really interesting focal point when you're doing the journal. So this is the first thing I do anyway, is I just create myself bits of these things. And then when I'm doing my layout in the art journal page, when I'm laying down the colors and I'm doing all that, I've got something that I can work with. I can think of a theme. Like today we're doing botanical stuff. So it's all about flowery and things and leaves. There we go. So just like that, it looks really just nice, and against if you have a chaotic background or a colored background, these kinds of bits look really neat. So little tiny collage bits. So I'm going to throw that in my pile. So I'm going to show you how to do some other stuff. So if you have a marker, go ahead and grab, before we even go on to this, I'm going to keep this out because I'm going to explain how I'm going to customize this to make it my own. So that's just not looking like a cutout from the gift wrap or the scrapbook page. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to doodle on this. And I could have doodled it before I cut it out, but no, I didn't. I didn't do it. Now, there's the doodling that we're going to be doing today. You can use a pen, like a permanent pen. Like this is a micron. It's a little bit on the thicker side. You can use, if you have black ink. Oops, gotta get closed. If you have black ink, like just waterproof, I'd use waterproof drawing ink if you have something like that. Black acrylic paint and a fine tip brush. Anything that you have, some nice, just some black ink, black water, black acrylic. If you have fluid acrylics, it'll be a little easier to move it around. Heavy-bodied acrylics that are thick, you thin it out. Now, this one I already cut out just a minute ago, and what I want to do is doodle over it, so it becomes kind of like my own artwork. So I'm going to take, you can use, and I was mentioning before, you could use inks, acrylics, watercolors, markers, if you have a Sharpie, something that's going to give a nice dark line. If it's a really dark image, you can use a light color like white. So what I'm doing is I've got these are inks that I love, super opaque white, super opaque black. These are yummies. These are great. Holbein makes them, and they're not horribly expensive. This size will go for a long, long time. I really love these for doing this kind of thing, because it is, especially for art journaling, because it is an acrylic, and you can layer over it and get it wet and it won't smear. So that's great. But if you don't have that, just even Sumi ink, black markers, whatever you've got. So I was just showing you the options. Now I did do something fun, and I want to share these with you. This is what I'm sure that they're making these beautiful. If you look on Instagram, and you can see these kind of embellishments that have this very beautiful graphic, gorgeous lines, very doodly. Those, I'll show you here, this one here, you can see how nice and dark those are. Now those are from taking my ink. So basically I took this ink here and I added a little bit of this black acrylic because I wanted it a little thicker than ink, because this is pretty thick, pretty thin. This is a little bit thicker. It's just, kind of mixed them up a little. And this one is just the ink in it, the white in it only, and I want to see what happens. I haven't tried it, but these bottles I found on Amazon. You get a thing of 15 for $7. In fact, I have some more. I'm queuing up on my. I'm going to buy some more because I found these are great for glue, for dispensing. Basically you fill the bottle with something liquid, and you've got this really nice needlepoint tip that makes great lines. So you can put masking fluid in these, you can put paints, you can put inks, you can put anything. And I have a squeezy side. They come with a funnel, and they also come with these little tops to seal the caps. And I can give you the link on that. It's I do have it. I just put it on there. So, but I wanted to show you what I would do with this. And this is kind of a fun little technique. So I'm just going to shake this up a little bit, making sure it's really good to go. Now I would do the same with a brush. You can do, like I said, a marker or a brush. You can doodle inside your designs. So I'm going to use this because I want to show you how fun it is. I'm going to take the little top off, and I'm just going to kind of play. I'm going to make some strong lines, kind of to reinforce what's already there. And I'm just making it my own a little bit. And I'm just going to add some new lines. I can doodle. I'll let those things, of course, dry. It's pretty thick right now, as you can see. But I'm just going to do some dots maybe. So basically you're not creating new drawings, but you're just kind of embellishing and enhancing the ones that were already there. Now I'd like to do the outside, the black, just kind of take that line and follow that line of that leaf, except maybe just change it up a little bit to make it more little rougher, not so perfect. And I really should have done this on the actual on the drawing before I cut it out. So I'm going to do the same thing. There we go, like that. I'm just going to let that dry. And see how much more bolder and more, it looks better already. And I could do the same thing, just kind of add that. And I'm not really squeezing this bottle at all right now. It's just kind of flowing out. I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. I'm going to just kind of draw. And this one I can just do a little looser. And I'm getting actually the feel of the pen too, or of the instrument I'm writing with. Because now it's kind of a pen, but it's certainly different than a pen. And it's kind of nice to be able to just loosely go around. And then I can go inside. And I'm making scribbles, basically. You can do that with any pattern paper that you have. Just kind of, you're bringing out shapes and creating new textures and lines. Like I'm just going to kind of go in here and make it like this. Then I can make little dots. Whatever works, and I could go in here. So basically it's like I'm tracing over a design, and I'm going to use that design, but now it's my own. So I'll let that dry completely, and I can add a little bit more just to kind of create some focal point, kind of get some dark get some black inside there, and let that dry. And you can do that with a marker too. So it's the same, except this is just a little bit more dramatic. But if you wanted to try doing this, oh boy, you'd love these little bottles because they will be useful for many things. So that has to set aside to dry for quite some time. So I'm going to let that, for maybe, depends on the weather, of course, but I'll just move that away and let that dry completely. Now the next one, I'm just going to set that over there. Whoops. Okay, the next. This is where you can take a pencil and make some doodle shapes, but I'm going to do it on this because it's easier for you to see probably. I can also do it on this too, on these little pieces, but I'm going to start on a big piece. And I have some fun little shapes I think you'll like to play with. So I'm going to do this using this just because I'm going to try this, getting used to this, but you can use a marker or anything you want. So the first thing we're going to do is make an outline of a leaf shape, kind of just a loose, there we go. And then I'm going to bring this stem thing here. Now, I've got this fun little thing. We make figure eights. Figure eights to join, to kind of create, we're just going to go figure eight doodles right in between this. And this little figure eight is a really nice way to make little doodle lines. There we go. You can see that I'm making just little figure eights. There we go. Now I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to do maybe another line through here just because I want to bring it a little bolder, I think. Maybe a third one just for fun. There. Now that's one way. We can do another leaf just to kind of, so you make your leaf shape, however, just a general leaf shape, put a line through it. And now let's make little figure eights again through the center part. Oops, this little part's going to want to go out. So I'm just going to go figure eight. And that one kind of came out thick because the paint's dripping out, but I'm doing a figure eight right over where that line is. Just like a little figure eight. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. And just we'll make a whole line just the whole page. We're going to fill the page. Now another fun way is we're going to take, it's going to make a stem. And it's going to be kind of straight stem going up like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do figure eights. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to go figure eight, big. Oops, that wasn't that big. Figure eight a little bit bigger. There we are, like that. And I'm going to make big kind of figure eights to make these leaves. See how they're just figure eights going up. And you can make them fatter or skinnier. It's up to you, but it's just kind of a nice way to make a kind of a nice kind of plant or fern or whatever it is. It's something kind of fun. And I'm just going to go like that. There we go. So we're just making figure eight shapes. And then I'm going to just take that middle stem and I'm going to enhance that by just bringing that line, kind of bringing it down like that. So I've got, there we are, kind of like that. And I think that's fun. And it's really interesting playing with this needle tip thing because you never know what you're going to get. Now, I want to do another one of these, but I want to show you another little way I want to do it. Okay, and then we keep in mind we want our little embellishments to not be too big because our journal pages, we don't want them. We want them maybe depending on what size journal you have. If you have a smaller journal, you would have smaller little bits. If you have a large journal, you would have larger bits. So now I'm going to do like a figure eight flower kind of thing, and I'm going to go around and another figure eight. And another figure eight, and maybe another figure eight, just kind of right in the center. You see how I just kind of did that. So now I'm just going to take that paint, and I can use a brush if I want. I'm going to just use this little brush to kind of get that paint spread out. There's a lot of paint in here, and I'm just going to bring it out like this, just to spread that paint around because it's puddled pretty well there. You can use brushes. You can use your markers, however you want to make those shapes. That one looks good. I'm going to let that sit. And I'll do it again, but I'll do it one in a marker so you can kind of see. I've got a black, if I can find my black marker. Let's see if this one will work. I don't know. I haven't used it. Haven't used it in a while. So, but this is this is an acrylic paint pen. Same thing. I'll just do a little figure 8 flower. So you could, and I'm going to keep them fairly close together because I plan on cutting out all of these shapes. So I'm going to start with a figure 8 like this, and then I'm going to just do another one. You can do a four petal, or you can do just do 4 petals, and then maybe just kind of do it like that, however you want. And this is all just doodling, so don't really think too much. We don't give it, we've got plenty of places. So that paint marker comes out nice and dense, which is nice. So that would work. A brush with just the ink, like if I were to put, I'll do this, let's see, I'll do that on another piece of paper. But so let's do another little figure 8, one of these twig things. And with this taking a while to dry, I don't want to put my hand on it while it's still drying. So this is pretty thin. At least it's I'm getting kind of the effect that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to put another stem up here, and maybe this time I'm going to just do, there we go, like that. And let's see what happens. I'm going to do a little figure 8s on, but this time I'm going to go much fatter. They just make really easy little, they make easy little things, and they'll look really fun when they're cut out. So the same thing, if I want to darken this part here, just make it one color, I can take my brush and just go ahead and move that ink around till it's, and then I can add some, if I want, I can just put little lines through it like this while it's still wet. And that gives me a little more focal point. These are definitely doodle. There's nothing precise. In fact, the rougher they look or the more, hand drawn they look, the better, because we're not trying to achieve a perfect painted, perfect photographic look of a flower or anything. And then I'm going to do another one here, this time I'm going to just do more of maybe a flower. I think it'd be fun to do a flower. So I'm just going to go this time just in kind of a 5 petals right here, and then I can do a swirl, and then maybe some dots along here. So just doodle. If you do Zentangle, which I know someone does here, you can make some basic Zentangle patterns, and you can cut them out and put them in your journal pages too. So there's one here. And then if you want to thicken the lines, let's say you just think that, maybe those are just too perfect, you can take these and thicken the lines. I'm just using my brush, and I'm just going to kind of pick up some paint and maybe thicken some of the lines, but not all of them. Picking up some of the paint that's there, and there I go. Just kind of creating some difference in the line density or the line thickness, which I kind of think makes something look more interesting. And then you can see, if you can see the weight on that, I'm just creating weight to the line. And again, I'm not trying to be precise. There we go, just like that. So we've got that line. So you could fill up your pages. I'm going to leave those like that. Here, I think I showed you these this last week. This was a set I got, very simple open design, which is really great for all kinds of creative things to do. So just going to show you with this background. There's another thing you can do within a stencil. So I have got it. I'm just going to lay it right here. Now I can paint, or I can do all kinds of things with this, but I'm going to use my marker this time and see what happens. Maybe I haven't done this in a while, and hopefully it'll look okay. But if it doesn't, that's all right. The best thing is if you're going to use a marker, like it should be an opaque this is acrylic paint. So anything you do with acrylics, you should always do acrylics over. So if you do it with a watercolor, you can go over with acrylics, but acrylics kind of, once they dry, they leave a plastic film, and that makes it really hard for to layer with the watercolor. So you either have to put a ground over it or something like that. But with the watercolors or with acrylics, you can just keep layering over each other. So I can just pick any color out of my little marker stash. I'm going to pick a blue color, see what happens. So if it's a fine tip pen, which is kind of what I'm looking for, I do this thing and I just scribble inside the stencil. So basically I'm just scribbling, and I'm not going to I'm not covering up the whole thing. I'm not really, and I'm sort of outlining it, but I'm scribbling it on the inside. It's so much fun, especially with an open stencil like this. When you have large openings, you can just make scribbles inside, and then you're basically creating a new, just a beautiful textural thing going on with the lettering underneath. You can still see the lettering. And when you're doing the scribbling, just make sure that all your lines do get to the edge, so you can see the image underneath, or the stenciled image. So I'm just kind of going around, scribble, scribble. And then I want to lift it and see how it looks. And then I can always add more color. So I'm just going to take it and lift it and see. It looks pretty good. You can see it, but I'm going to add a little bit. I could actually, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to leave that, because I don't know if you see that, but I'm going to take the pen, and I'm going to take a black pen, and I'm going to just kind of go over that. Use that I'm going to just do some drawing outside of that. But if you can see the scribble parts, it's showing. I could use another color. Why not? Let's just do another color. So I'm just going to lay it over the stencil. Make sure it's all lined up. And then I'm going to use a green, kind of a darkish green. I think I got it right there. Okay. Same thing, scribble again. I'm just going to scribble. I kind of wanted it a little darker than it. That blue wasn't really getting the density that I was looking for. Just a little, and the more just kind of scribble inside randomly, kind of using, hinging, kind of, you don't want to just kind of go straight, just random marks. And I think you can probably see that better now. And that can be in any homemade stencil, if you have circles, anything. But then you're just creating a new dynamic, kind of fun thing. There's no drawing required, no dexterity. Just have fun with the scribbling inside that open area. So now I've got that. Now you can see that a lot better. See how it's very graphic looking? And now I can I'll add some lines to that, which with this little guy, this little dispenser here, and it's probably good if your tip starts to get clogged, you can use a little needle to open it and just kind of keep that from clogging. And now I'm going to draw and doodle. And this time I'm going to be kind of loosey-goosey. And I'm using that that thing underneath is really the sort of the starting point, but now I'm just going to do line, just kind of make it loose, just kind of outlining it. And now I have a drawing that really is no longer that stencil. I can't tell that it was a stencil at one point. It looks like I drew it, right? I mean, I'm not duplicating that stencil. The lines have changed, and it's completely different now. So that's just another way to create or collage bits that look like your own artwork. I mean, it's like this, there's just no way that that stencil, if you took that stencil and looked at it, would you think it was a duplicate of that? So that's one way, and I'll let that dry, and that can be cut out too for later. And let's see, do another one of these. So I'm going to set that aside. Hopefully it'll dry in time so we can cut. These are pretty dry, so it doesn't take that long. And then, so like let's say, in the other one I thought that was fun to do is to take something, cut it out, or draw on it first, whether it be a marker or or this acrylic pen, anything, just to kind of create the doodle over it. So I'm just kind of following the rose shape, but I'm really loosely doing that. And now I'm kind of just creating a drawing that's very uniquely mine, right? And however, just kind of create little shapes inside and then go around the leaves. If you have something like this, anything you have, a flower, and just make that yours. And then that can be cut out as well. And you won't recognize that print when it's cut out. So let's see if this one's dry enough. Nope, that's not dry. So the next step, now we got to get one that's dry, is to, oh, and the other one I wanted to show you was the stencil. And I let this dry ahead of time, but I did the same, I used that same stencil and I put some silver paint, just some silver acrylics, and I used a thick, just a silver paint. And I want to show you the same thing. You can take I'm going to use my stencil as my guide, but then I'm making it my own too. I'm just drawing. And really, the rougher the way this paint or it dispenses out of this, it's just incredible. So I would suggest if you don't have one of these, you would love this. So this is now, it's ready to go. I can actually add more, maybe some more graphics, some line, just a dark, kind of give it some contrast here. This part's here, let it sit. I'll let that dry completely, and then that can be cut out and used in my journal page. So I'm going to show you the cutting, kind of the cutting sequences. So this one these are ready. So I'll go ahead and we can start. So when you're ready to cut out your stuff, we've got several little embellishments that we can do, and I'll just cut out the general shapes first. And if you have a pair of scissors that have a nice sharp tip, but really scissors, any scissors will work. These have kind of a serrated, they sort of have a serrated edge, which is strange. But I have also these little tiny scissors somewhere, and those are cute. There's little tiny ones are good for really small details, but if just any pair of scissors will probably be fine. So your leaves, you're just going to cut out when you cut just on the outside, leaving some of your painted edge, and so you can see your line instead of cutting off the line. You want to keep that, and you can even create more like a more elongated shape or wider or whatever you want to do. You're basically kind of creating a sticker for your art journals that you can put on the covers. You can put them anywhere. You can put them on greeting cards. I mean, there's so many things that you can use these little bits for, and they look really great once they're cut out. I mean, even better. So this one looks a little messy to me, but once I cut it out, I think it's gonna look really wonderful. We can just have our own original artwork. We don't have to buy a bunch of stuff. You've already got the paint, you've got the pens, you've got your paper, so why not make your own? And this is a time, like last week I did 3 or 4 techniques or 5, and I rushed through them, which was good if you want to do a quick thing, but this is something you want to do and just spend a day, an afternoon, whatever extra time you have, make a bunch of this stuff. Then you'll have it, and you can be so much quicker when you are creating. So this one's going to be a little more. You're going to see the ones that are a little more detailed, how we go around the edges. And then you have this beautiful stuff that you can put in your journals and anything. So, and that's just really part of the creative. When you get to that creative, and when you have that energy, and if you focus on one thing at a time, and then you can put all those things together at another time, and it's magical. The whole process. And this for me is very relaxing. I'm not thinking, oh, I have to put it in, I want to finish this journal page. or this piece of art, I'm just making little bits that I can sew if I want to sew them into something. I can put them on a gift. Can you imagine wrapping a plain old gift and then just putting something like this instead of a bow, having this on the gift? Those are the things that make your gift giving and your creative, whatever you're doing is a creative person, because I know you're here because you're creative or you would want to be more creative. This is how what the magic of being creative is you make up your own stuff and you're getting out of your way. You're just kind of enjoying the moment and the process, and then it all comes together. And all those little bits and pieces will come together in something really beautiful. And we're going to call these collage bits and pieces. Or let's call them creative bits and pieces. And you could save I don't save my trimmings, but you could for something, and you never know what you might, especially if it's painted. Another thing you could do this over, if you're into gelatin printing, jelly plate printing, which we're going to do some classes on that. It's a monoprinting technique that utilizes a plate that's made out of a cushy, wonderful substance. It's like gelatin, but it's not. It used to be gelatin in the old days, but they made it something that works really well. You put paint on it, you play with it, make textures. Oh boy, it's fun. And this technique could be done over gelatin prints, which would be fabulous to look at and to play with. And these little cutouts can be used to make your jelly prints, to actually create designs on that. So that's going to be down the road. I will give you plenty of time to get one of those jelly plates. And I promise you will not be sorry that you bought one, because they are very wonderful for just making your own decorative papers. So I just finished with this one, and I wanted you to see the real-time time on that. And I just think these came out so cool. So, and I have, I'll cut out more of these later. And then you can doodle over these if you want. To glue these, when it's time to glue them onto your journals, like I'll show you a little bit. Like, let's say, this one's already done, but let's say if I have a journal page that's just kind of needs a focal point. I don't know if there's anything in here yet. This one I already did, but let's say if I wanted to add here, let's say, which I might, it might be fun to add that there. Of course, this has got 3 elements, and now these were cutouts from magazines or from a collage thing. But what I like about this is now I have my own artwork is now on this page. So I can arrange it wherever I want. And these are, just keep them in a little bowl. Like, okay, so which one I go, that one go, you can just play and just put your little collage bits and decide which ones you want to put in your layout. Let's see, this one I thought was really cute. This one here, this little tiny flower. I might even put a couple of those in there. But this is the fun part, is just keep cutting out your little shapes. This one's dry, almost dry. I'll just do the same thing. I'll cut around that, and I'm going to be able to use that. You can also do the same thing on a journal page without cutting. So let's say you have a journal page and or an old book would be fun, and you just want to do this on top, which I think I did on this page here. Yeah, no, this one. See, if you see this line, this one here, what I did with this one is oh yeah, that's right. We'll go through this kind of process later, but what I did with that is I actually lifted the acrylic paint off and created I pulled the color off, that white, and it was able to lift it. So I had the image showing, but then I used the pen to kind of bring it out a little bit more. But there's so many things, so little time. So but I wanted just to focus on these little collage bits to start. for today. And I hope that you can find yourself making lots of little pieces that will inspire you. I love the way this one turned out, and it'll be fun to cut that out. So that is our class for today, and of course, I would love to, open up for discussion, questions. Let's see, I'm going to take